Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. The Call at Midnight. The phone rang just after 12:17 a.m. Mark Reddick jolted awake in his bunk aboard the USS Franklin, his body still wired from the last 18-hour op. The call display read unknown. That didn't stop the dread from gut-punching him the second it rang a second time. "Chief Reddick," he answered, voice sharp. "Sir, this is Nurse Daniels from Chesapeake Memorial Hospital. Your daughter, Lily Reddick, has been admitted. She's stable, but you need to come home. Now." Mark's world stopped. His boots hit the floor before the nurse finished her sentence. He grabbed his deployment pack, barely hearing her explain a head injury, possible dehydration, signs of neglect. She mentioned Lily had been home alone. For how long, no one knew. "She kept asking for you," the nurse added gently. "Said she couldn't find her mom." A stillness colder than the sea crept over him. Vanessa hadn't answered his last two calls. She'd said her phone had a glitch. Now his daughter was in a hospital bed, alone. He didn't ask for permission. He ordered his return. 6 hours later, his boots hit Virginia soil. Inside the hospital, the bright light stung. Lily was curled on the cot, her face pale, with bruises under her eyes, bandaged forehead, and 4 in her arm. When she saw him, she cracked, just a tiny, broken sound. "Daddy, where were you?" Mark knelt beside her, trying to steady his voice. "I'm here now, sweetheart. I swear I'm here." But as he held her trembling hand, a question burned deeper than anything he'd faced in uniform. Where the hell was her mother? "Hey, just want to speak from the heart for a second. I've been working really hard on both my channels, writing, editing, everything by myself. But lately, it feels like the support isn't what it used to be. New subscribers aren't coming in the way they did before, and honestly, it gets disheartening. I've started a new channel called Betrayal Stories Lab, where I share even deeper, more emotional stories. If my content has ever meant something to you, please check it out. The link's in the description. Just one click. It would really mean a lot. Thanks for sticking around. Your support keeps me going." The front door creaked as Mark pushed it open. It was 9:42 p.m. The house smelled stale, untouched. The kitchen light was still on, casting long shadows over the counter. Lily's backpack lay on the floor near the stairs, next to an empty water bottle and an unopened granola bar. No sign of Vanessa. He scanned the room like it was a fresh mission site. The living room had an open wine bottle. A single glass, half full. No dishes. No sign of a second plate. But on the counter sat a pair of unfamiliar men's sunglasses. Mark picked them up slowly. Designer. Not cheap. Definitely not his. He moved through the house. Their bedroom door was ajar. Sheets wrinkled. A faint perfume still clung to the air, sweet and bitter. He checked the bathroom, 2 towels used. Hair on the sink that wasn't his. The trash bin held a used condom wrapper, half buried under tissues. His throat tightened, but he said nothing. No rage. Not yet. This was recon. A drawer near the bedside table stuck slightly when opened. Inside, tucked under some old mail, was a receipt. "Mariner's Inn, room 406. Dated 2 nights ago." His daughter's injury had occurred the same weekend. Vanessa wasn't answering her phone. Mark walked out to the back porch, where Lily's bike leaned against the railing, still muddy from last week's rain. That's where he sat, silent, watching the road. At 10:18 p.m., headlights appeared. A car he didn't recognize pulled up the driveway. Vanessa stepped out, heels clicking on the gravel, laughing at something someone had texted her. She froze when she saw him on the porch. Mark stood up slowly. "Where have you been?" he asked. She blinked. "What?" "I told you. My aunt. There is no aunt in Norfolk." She went quiet. Mark's voice was ice. "Want to try again?" That night, Lily stirred awake around 2 a.m., needing water. She shuffled to the hallway, rubbing her eyes. She paused when she saw light spilling from her dad's study, the door slightly ajar. Mark was at his desk, laptop open, files spread out like a war map. He didn't see her standing there. On the screen were Google searches, how to access deleted texts, Infidelity Laws Virginia. How to clone a phone without root access. Lily stepped closer. Dad. Mark turned quickly, softening when he saw her. Couldn't sleep either, huh? She nodded, stepping into the room. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Can I ask you something? Anything. Mom told me not to say, but she was gone a lot. I heard her talking to someone. A man. Her lips trembled. She said you were busy and that it's okay to have someone to lean on when you're lonely. Mark felt something inside him fracture, not loud, not visible, just a silent shift, like steel under pressure. He kept his tone level. Did he ever come here? She nodded. Once. I saw his boots. Big ones. Police kind. Mark felt his heart stop, not just because of what she said, but who she might have meant. Lily stepped forward. Am I in trouble for telling? Mark knelt, holding her tightly. No, sweetheart. You just saved us both. She looked up. Are you going to leave, Mom? He didn't answer. Just stared past her, eyes narrowing, already planning something far colder than divorce. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was war. The next morning felt colder than it should have been. Mark stood at the kitchen stove, quietly flipping eggs in a pan. Vanessa came downstairs barefoot in one of his old navy sweatshirts. A manipulative detail, he saw it for what it was. She offered a smile like nothing was wrong. Smells good, she said. He didn't answer. Just placed a plate in front of Lily, who sat at the counter drawing a dog with a pirate hat. Her innocence made the room feel even heavier. Vanessa cleared her throat. Mark, I wanted to talk about. He held up a hand. Let's skip the small talk. Her eyes flicked toward Lily. He nodded. She knows more than you think. They ate in silence. Mark chewed slowly, methodically, watching her. He didn't ask questions. Not yet. He was watching the way a trained interrogator watches. Tone, body language, breath. When Lily went upstairs, Vanessa sat down, exhaling. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You disappeared for 3 days. I told you, I was at your aunt's, right? He dropped the hotel receipt on the table. Room 406. 2 nights. Mariner's Inn. That's not Norfolk. She froze. Her lips moved, but no words came out. He leaned forward. Want to know what really pisses me off? It's not even the affair. She blinked. Then what? You left our daughter alone. She got hurt while you were screwing around, and you weren't even reachable. I didn't think she'd exactly. He cut her off. You didn't think. The silence stretched. He stood, voice steady. You can lie to yourself. You can lie to him. But don't you ever lie to me again. And with that, he walked away, knowing full well this wasn't the confrontation. It was the prelude. Mark spent the afternoon cleaning out the garage. He needed space to think, and the rhythm of sorting old boxes grounded him. That's when he found it, an envelope tucked under a pile of Lily's baby drawings. His handwriting. A card he'd mailed 3 months ago from deployment. To my wife. Happy anniversary. Still sealed. He opened it. The card read, I know I'm far, but I'm with you every second. I love you more than I can ever put into words. He stood there, the card trembling in his hand. The envelope was creased, slightly faded, but untouched. He didn't hear Vanessa walk into the garage behind him. She saw the card. Mark. I didn't know where to put that. I don't. He didn't look at her. I was overwhelmed. I didn't open it because I didn't want to pretend everything was okay. He turned then. No, you didn't open it because you were too busy feeling someone else. Her face cracked. Mark grabbed an old box labeled Deployment Keepsakes and pulled out a smaller, rusted tin. Inside, an old GoPro camera, military grade. Still functional. He looked at her and said one word. Memories. What does that mean? He met her eyes. Cold. Direct. It means I've started documenting this marriage. Every lie. Every secret. Every choice you make next. Vanessa swallowed hard. You're scaring me. You should be, he said calmly. Because you don't even know what you've lost yet. She stepped back, whispering, What are you going to do? Mark gave a faint smile. I'm going to be everything you think I'm not. That night, when Vanessa fell asleep on the couch, pretending things were patched, Mark slipped her main phone into airplane mode and placed it beside her. She wouldn't notice it wasn't buzzing. Voicemails. Photos. Last night was insane. The things you do to me. Damn, I wish I'd met you before him. She's a grown kid now. She doesn't need you every second. Can you leave the patio door unlocked again? Mark's jaw tightened. Then he clicked on the contact name. It read, Eric. He stared at the name for a long time. Eric. His friend. His neighbor. A man he'd once helped rebuild a fence after a hurricane. They'd cooked barbecue together. Watched the Super Bowl with beers and dumb jokes. His daughter had called him Uncle E. Now that man had been in his house. In his bed. While Lily was alone and bleeding. Mark's hand hovered over the delete key. Instead, he hit download all. Then he picked up the GoPro and whispered, "This war's about to go loud." He looked toward the hallway, where Lily's nightlight cast a soft glow. He knew one thing for certain now. He wasn't just protecting himself anymore. He was going to bury them both. Mark stood at the edge of the Reddick family's backyard fence, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the house next door. It was a crisp Saturday morning. The kind that used to mean pancakes, cartoons, and Lily chasing the neighbor's dog across the lawn. Now all Mark could see was the man who had crossed into his home, into his life, and left fingerprints where trust used to be. Eric Daniels stepped out of his truck, coffee in one hand, badge clipped to his belt like it meant something. He wore it even on off days, like armor or arrogance, maybe both. Mark's gaze didn't waver. Eric noticed. He gave a lazy wave, smiled too big. Chief Reddick. Man, when'd you get back? Thought you were still overseas. Mark didn't return the smile. I've been back just long enough. Eric nodded, oblivious. We should catch up. Got some ribs I'm throwing on later. Mark's lips twitched, almost a smile. Sure, let's do that. Vanessa stepped out of their own house just then, her face drained of color. She saw Mark. She saw Eric. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Eric glanced between them. Everything all right? Mark looked right at him. I think things are exactly how they should be. He turned and walked back inside. Vanessa followed, closing the door behind them. You don't know what you're doing, she hissed. Eric's not someone you want to go against. Mark's voice dropped to a chilling calm. He should have thought about that before sneaking into my house while I was deployed. You don't know the whole story. No, I know enough. He held up the burner phone. Her face went pale. And then he said it, flat and final. You two played a game. Now it's my turn. That night, Mark did something unexpected. He invited Eric and his wife, Tessa, over for dinner, just like old times. Vanessa looked at him like he'd lost his mind. He just said, if we're all neighbors, let's be neighborly. At 7 p.m. sharp, the Daniels walked in with a bottle of red wine and fake smiles. Tessa was chatty, warm, completely unaware. Eric cracked jokes, patted Lily on the back, and made small talk about football. Mark sat quietly at the head of the table, cutting steak with deliberate slowness. So, Chief, Eric said mid-meal, how was this last rotation? But it's good to be home. Mark gave a slow nod. It's always good to come home to your family. Assuming they're still your family when you get back. Tessa laughed lightly. Vanessa stared at her plate. Eric raised an eyebrow. Lily, confused by the tension, asked, Daddy, what's a rotation? Mark softened. It's a kind of mission. You go somewhere far and hard, and all you can think about is getting back. And when you get back, is everything the same? Mark glanced at Vanessa and Eric. Not always, kiddo. Lily tilted her head. That sucks. Everyone went quiet. Vanessa stood suddenly. Anyone want dessert? Mark interrupted. Actually, I have something sweet to share. He pulled a flash drive from his pocket, handed it to Eric with a smile. Funny story. Found this lying around. You like surprises, right? Eric took it, uncertain. What is it? Let's just say a reminder. Of all the nights you thought were secret. Eric stared. Vanessa looked like she might throw up. Tessa blinked, confused. Mark raised his glass. To loyalty. It's a dying art. Later that night, in the dark hum of his study, Mark sat alone. The flash drive in his hand was identical to the one he'd given Eric, but this one had a full backup. Every audio clip from Vanessa's car mic, every text from the burner phone, every time-stamped moment that could unravel 2 marriages. He clicked play. I don't care about the risk, baby. I miss you too much. He's always talking about honor this, honor that. Makes me want to puke. Lily's fine. She's a teenager. She barely notices when I'm gone. Mark didn't flinch. He sat still, jaw locked, as Vanessa laughed in the background of the recording. Eric's voice was smug, careless. You should have left him ages ago. Mark closed his eyes. The walls around him felt tighter than ever. He could still smell Lily's shampoo from earlier when he tucked her in. The innocence of her small hug. The way she trusted him completely. He opened a folder on his computer labeled Evidence, Phase 1. Inside, photos, call logs, audio clips, hotel receipts. A digital case file. Tight. Clear. Devastating. He uploaded it to a cloud drive with military-grade encryption and labeled the final folder. Trust is earned. Then he leaned back, cracked his knuckles, and whispered, "Let's see how loud a secret can get when the wrong person has the mic." He knew what came next wouldn't just break hearts. It would break faces. Mark waited in his truck outside Lily's school, engine off, fingers drumming against the steering wheel. The counselor had called that morning, said it wasn't urgent, but it was concerning. The door opened and Lily climbed in, her backpack slumped over her shoulder. She didn't speak right away. Mark glanced at her. "How was today?" She shrugged. "Okay." He nodded, then handed her a juice box. "Miss Carter said you've been quiet in class. She said you mentioned something about being scared at home." Lily froze mid-sip. Her small hands tightened around the box. She whispered, "I didn't want to get anyone in trouble." Mark's heart clenched. He kept his voice calm. "You're never in trouble for telling the truth." "Never." She said not to talk about Eric. "But I heard them once. In the kitchen. I thought you were home. But it was him. They didn't know I was there." Mark held the steering wheel tighter. "I went back to my room," Lily said, eyes down. "I thought, if I pretended not to know, it would go away." A beat passed. Mark leaned in. "It won't go away, baby. But you don't have to carry it. That's my job now." She nodded slowly, then reached into her backpack. "I drew something." It was a crayon sketch, a family photo. But the mom's face was blurred, smudged, like it had been erased. Mark's throat went dry. He drove them home in silence, but his mind was far from still. By nightfall, he had downloaded Lily's school records, pulled CPS procedures from state law, and typed a note for his lawyer. Custody. Emergency. Psychological neglect. Starting now. Because they'd touched the only thing he couldn't replace. And now, the gloves were off. At 0300 hours, Mark moved like he was back on the deck of the Franklin, efficient, silent, surgical. He wasn't just angry anymore. He was mission-focused. He opened the secure app on his laptop. Compass rose, a retired military operations network reactivated for veterans needing civilian justice. One request. One message. One encrypted file. Target, Eric Daniels. Badge number 4197. Request. Background pull, corruption trace, financial records, badge conduct history. Note. Suspected misuse of badge. Adultery. Evidence theft. Civilian endangerment. Within minutes, the thread lit up with Old Navy and Marine contacts, cyber guys, lawyers, even a retired JAG officer. Mark's phone buzzed. "You want this quiet or public?" He replied, "Public. Eventually. I need teeth first." Then he messaged someone else, Jess, a Navy forensic specialist turned private investigator. Her reply came in instantly. "Still owe you from Jakarta. I'm in. Just sent a voice scrubber and GPS tag." Mark opened the small package sheet overnight, a set of modified smart plugs, a mini GPS tile, and a signal sniffer. All plug and play. He moved fast. Within hours, the hallway outlets were bugged. Vanessa's phone charger was swapped with the audio capture plug. Her car charger? Tagged. He wasn't guessing anymore. He was collecting, stacking truth until it became undeniable. Every step was documented, named, timestamped. On the folder's top line, Phase 2, Pre-Exposure. Later, as he watched Vanessa walk to her car in heels, texting like nothing had changed, he whispered under his breath, "You wanted secrets. Now let's see how you handle surveillance." 3 days passed. The data piled up, a voice message from Eric laughing about Lily's injury. Another from Vanessa, talking about being free after handling things. But then came a new audio clip, one that stopped Mark cold. I told him I had a miscarriage. That kept him around. He's obsessed with being needed. Vanessa's voice. Clear. Casual. Cold. He said he'd leave his wife. But I don't think he will. He's weak. Just like Mark. Mark's breath left his body. She'd faked a miscarriage? Not just to keep Eric, but to manipulate a second man while her daughter lay bruised and alone. The betrayal wasn't just physical now. It was tactical. Intentional. He stared at the screen, feeling the room grow smaller, darker. Downstairs, he heard Lily laughing softly at a cartoon, unaware. Mark opened the folder labeled Audio Set 2, copied the miscarriage confession, and burned it onto a small USB drive. Labeled it with a Sharpie, Truth Bomb. The plan was no longer about divorce. No longer about a private reckoning. This would be public. People had to see what she was. Not just for justice. For protection. He watched from the hallway as Vanessa walked into the kitchen, humming like nothing had happened. She didn't know her time was ticking. And Mark? He wasn't angry anymore. He was calculating. And soon, the world would know exactly why. Sunday, 9:43 a.m. Vanessa stood in the kitchen scrolling through her phone, giggling softly. She hadn't seen Mark all morning. The house was quiet, save for the occasional sound of Lily's pencil scratching paper upstairs. The burner phone buzzed. Eric, thinking about last weekend. Need you again. Patio door tonight? She typed back quickly, thumbs moving like muscle memory. Mark watched from the upstairs landing, silent, arms folded. He didn't need to record this moment. It was already burned into memory. Later that afternoon, they attended a neighborhood block event. Lawn chairs, lemonade, too many fake smiles. Eric and his wife, Tessa, arrived late. Vanessa pretended not to notice Eric when he brushed past her on the way to the grill. But Mark saw the flick of her eyes. The quick inhale. The guilt dressed as casual. He decided it was time. He had copied screenshots from the burner, hotel selfies, dirty texts, timestamps. He printed them, folded them into a manila envelope labeled private, urgent, and slipped it under Tessa's car windshield. Then he walked away. But fate, or irony, intervened. A gust of wind. The envelope slid down, caught the edge of the grass, and Vanessa spotted it just in time. She opened it. Her face went white. Mark, watching from the porch, locked eyes with her. She knew he had fired a warning shot, and next time, she wouldn't get a chance to intercept it. That night, Vanessa confronted Mark in the living room. Her tone was shaky, but her eyes tried to stay defiant. You crossed a line. No, Mark said flatly. You did. Repeatedly. She held up the printed photos, hands trembling. You went through my things? Mark stepped forward, calm. That's my daughter's house. My house. And my marriage. Those weren't your things. That was a battlefield. And you left landmines. Vanessa's voice cracked. Tessa doesn't deserve this. He narrowed his eyes. Neither did Lily. Silence. The truth lay between them like broken glass. Vanessa slumped onto the couch, her voice low. You don't know what it's been like. You were gone. For months. Years sometimes. Mark's jaw tightened. So you filled the silence with lies? No. She paused. I got tired of waiting to feel something. I needed to feel needed. Mark stared at her like she was a stranger. You could have said something. Asked for therapy. Hell, even asked for space. But instead, you brought him here. Into our life. Into her life. Vanessa looked away. Mark placed a USB drive on the table. That's everything. Copies of your texts. His voicemails. Every time you chose him over her. She blinked. What? What do you want from me? He leaned in. I want you to feel what it's like to lose the only person who still believed you were worth loving. Then he walked upstairs. That night, Vanessa sat alone, holding the USB like it might detonate. Because deep down, she knew it would. Monday morning came with a storm. Heavy rain, hard winds, and the kind of gloom that stuck to your skin. Mark sat at the dining table sipping black coffee, eyes on the window. Across the street, Eric's cruiser was parked crooked in his driveway. He hadn't gone into work. The ripple had started. Vanessa walked in slowly. No makeup, no mask. Just her raw, shaken. She sat down opposite him. You win, she said, quietly. Mark didn't flinch. This isn't a game, and I don't need to win. She rubbed her temples. Then what are you doing? He looked her dead in the eye. Protecting Lily. From both of you. I never hurt her. You abandoned her, he said, voice steel. That night, she hit her head and lay bleeding while you were busy playing house at the Mariners Inn. You don't get to redefine that. Vanessa covered her face with her hands. I didn't think she'd. That's always your excuse. You didn't think. He slid a paper across the table, a signed notarized statement from his lawyer. Custody emergency hearing. Filed. She stared at it, pale. You're taking her away from me? No. You gave her away. I'm just making it legal. She looked like she'd been struck. And Eric, she whispered. He's next. Just haven't decided if it's gonna be his batch. Or his marriage I take first. Vanessa looked up, tears forming. You're not the man I married. No, he said, standing. I'm the man you forgot I was. And just like that, she saw it, the version of Mark that didn't beg, didn't break. He was no longer fighting for her. He was preparing to bury her. For 3 full days, Mark said almost nothing. He moved through the house like a ghost in combat boots, made breakfast for Lily, cleaned up after dinner, slept in the guest room. But he didn't speak to Vanessa. Not out of rage. Out of strategy. Silence was a scalpel. Vanessa tried to fill it. First with apologies. Then excuses. Then tears. Please, Mark, she begged one evening as he folded laundry. Talk to me. Yell at me. Just something. He didn't even look up. Already said what mattered. She followed him around like a shadow. Do you even remember how we started? The nights we stayed up talking, the way you drive 2 hours just to see me between deployments. I remember everything, he said flatly. Which is exactly why this hurts like hell. She paused. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Mark folded a shirt slowly. No one means to burn their house down. Doesn't change the ashes. Later that night, Lily asked, Is Mom in trouble? Mark crouched by her bed, brushed hair from her face. She made choices. That's not the same as being in trouble. Are you and Mom not going to be married anymore? Mark hesitated. We're still your family. That part doesn't change. She nodded, but her eyes said she already knew. After Lily fell asleep, Mark opened his laptop, checked the tracking logs from the phone books. Vanessa was still texting Eric. Still lying. Still sneaking. And yet, she cried in the next room like she was mourning something. She was. She just hadn't figured out yet. It was her reputation. Mark sat in his lawyer's office the next morning, watching the rain bead down the window behind her. We're building a very aggressive case, she said, flipping through the evidence binder. You have recordings, text transcripts, abandonment claims, and an affidavit from Lily's school therapist. Vanessa's team will scramble, but this is heavy. Mark nodded. I don't want to destroy her. I want full custody. And I want her nowhere near my daughter without court approval. You'll get it, the lawyer replied. Judges don't smile on absent mothers who lie and cheat during a military deployment while their child ends up hospitalized. Mark handed her a new USB. Add this to the file. It's recent. The lawyer plugged it into her laptop. The audio filled the room. Let him take her, honestly. It's not like I'm going to be a mom of the year anyway. Besides, kids are resilient. Vanessa's voice. Drunk. Dismissive. Laughing. Mark didn't react. But the lawyer looked up, lips tight. Are you sure you don't want to file for defamation too? This could go nuclear. I just want Lily safe. The rest? That's just cleanup. As Mark left the office, his phone buzzed, a message from Tessa. We need to talk. Urgently. He paused on the sidewalk, raindrops sliding down his jaw. It had started. The first fault lines were opening. And soon, the whole rotten house would cave in. That evening, Vanessa stood in the kitchen, phone in hand, furiously scrolling. Her fingers moved faster than her thoughts. Delete. 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 Mark watched from the hallway, unnoticed. She was going through the burner phone, erasing threads with Eric. Photos. Audio clips. Location logs. All of it. But what she didn't know was simple. Every single byte was already copied. 2 cloud backups. 1 flash drive in a fireproof box. another hidden in the garage behind his navy medals. Mark stepped into the kitchen. She jumped. Going somewhere? He asked casually. Just cleaning up old messages. Sure. He opened the fridge. Weird time to go digital spring cleaning, though. She froze. He cracked open a water bottle. I hope you deleted everything. Really. It'll make what's coming feel even worse when you realize it changed nothing. Mark, I don't know who you are anymore. He took a slow sip. That's funny. I know exactly who you are now. Vanessa lowered her phone. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Are you going to ruin me? Mark set the bottle down. No, she looked confused. You're not. He stepped closer. Calm. Measured. Dangerous. I'm going to let you do it yourself. And with that, he turned and walked out, leaving her alone in the silence. The silence that used to be safety. Now, it was a countdown. The black envelope arrived on a Thursday. Vanessa's older sister had passed. Sudden heart failure. Tragic. Unexpected. Mark knew her well. They'd been close, once. Before the distance. Before the lies. Vanessa approached him cautiously. I'm flying to Charleston for the service. I'd like to take Lily. Mark didn't look up from his laptop. No, she was her aunt. She also hasn't asked about your side of the family in months. Because you made sure she barely knew them. She deserves to say goodbye. Mark leaned back, staring at her. And I deserve to know my daughter won't be left in a hotel room while you disappear with another man. Vanessa opened her mouth, then closed it again. She didn't argue, just quietly turned and left the room. Mark attended the funeral alone. He hadn't planned to, but something told him it would be worth it. And it was. He stood near the back pew, blending in with the silent crowd dressed in black. Grief lingered in the air, heavy and honest, until Vanessa walked in, arm gently looped around Eric Daniels. Mark watched them slide into the front row. Eric's hand hovered too long on her back. Heads turned. Some whispered. Then Mark stepped forward. Quiet. Deliberate. Vanessa turned mid-him and locked eyes with him. The color drained from her face. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. And Mark? He didn't flinch. He stood just long enough for others to notice, then turned, walked out, and left her to stew in that slow-boiling shame. Because some revenge doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be seen. 2 nights later, Mark dropped off Lily at her piano lesson and pulled into the lot outside the sheriff's department. He walked in, evidence binder in hand. Photos. Time-stamped call logs. Voice recordings. Transcripts. He requested an internal review meeting, not as a civilian, but as a decorated military officer presenting concerns about Officer Daniels' conduct. When asked for specifics, Mark calmly said, adultery, misuse of department vehicle, negligence involving a minor, possible tampering with legal evidence. The room fell quiet. This isn't personal, he added. This is about a man who wore the badge while doing things that would get any officer stripped of it. By the next morning, whispers were spreading like gasoline on asphalt. At church, Mark sat 3 rows behind Vanessa and Eric. The preacher's words blurred behind the tension in the room. The crowd was smaller than usual. Conversations died when Vanessa walked past. Eric pretended not to notice. After the service, Tessa, Eric's wife, approached Mark in the parking lot. I got your envelope, she said quietly. Mark nodded. Her eyes were glassy but steady. It hurt, but it made things clear. I didn't send it to hurt you. I know, she said. You sent it to stop the bleeding. And I'm grateful. She walked away before she could cry. Vanessa watched from across the lot, still trying to smile for people who no longer smiled back. Eric's hand brushed her arm. She pulled away this time. The cracks had reached the surface, and the collapse was beginning in full view. Mark stood in the garage late that night, staring at a shoebox filled with remnants of a marriage-now-turned weapon. Old love letters. Polaroids. A pressed flower from their first anniversary. All of it now soaked in gasoline. He took one photo out, the 3 of them on Lily's 6th birthday, smiles real and untainted. He set it aside. The rest? He tossed into the steel fire drum. Vanessa stepped out from the back door, her voice soft. What are you doing? He didn't answer. She walked closer, eyes flicking to the photo in his hand. You kept that one? Only for her, Mark said. Not for you. She stepped back. He lit a match and dropped it into the drum. The fire roared to life, old promises curling and blackening under orange heat. "You know," Vanessa whispered, "you're not the only one who got hurt." Mark turned, the flames reflecting in his eyes. "No, but I'm the only one who didn't deserve it." He walked past her without another word, leaving the fire to burn down what used to be love and what had become fuel. Mark's phone buzzed just as he was flipping pancakes for Lily. Unknown caller. He stepped onto the back porch, answered with a simple, "Yeah." A woman's voice replied, "This is Deputy Marshal. Your report regarding Officer Eric Daniels has been reviewed. He was taken into custody this morning. Internal Affairs has confirmed 2 pending investigations. You'll be contacted." Mark paused. "Was he cooperative?" he asked. "Very, but nervous. Like he knew it was coming." Mark hung up without another word, walked back inside, and placed the last pancake on Lily's plate. She looked up, wide-eyed. "You okay?" He smiled softly. "Yeah, just a little more peaceful this morning." Meanwhile, across town, Eric was escorted out of his driveway in front of stunned neighbors, shirt half-tucked, no badge in sight. Vanessa ran out barefoot, confused, frantic. "Eric, what the hell is going on?" He didn't answer. Just shot her a look, not of love, but blame. Mark knew it wasn't the full justice yet, but it was enough to let them both sweat. Enough to send a message. Back home, Mark walked past Vanessa's room, saw her staring at the TV as the local news scrolled the headline, "Sheriff's Deputy Placed on Leave Pending Internal Review." No names. Not yet. But she knew. And that quiet dread was louder than any shouting match. That night, Mark received a message request on Facebook from someone he hadn't seen in years. Josh Reddick, his younger brother. Mark hesitated, then opened it. "I know you probably never want to see me again, but if she didn't tell you yet, I need to. You should hear it from me before the whole thing unravels." Mark stared at the message. His stomach turned. He called the number listed. Josh answered on the 3rd ring. "Mark." "Say it," Mark said flatly. "I didn't know she was still with you, man. It was years ago. Back when you were in Bahrain. We reconnected. She said you were separating. She told me it was over." Mark said nothing. Josh's voice cracked. "I swear I didn't know she was lying. It only lasted a few months. Then she ghosted me like I never existed." Mark closed his eyes. "You slept with my wife. She wasn't acting like your wife." Silence. I needed to say it before someone else did. Because if Lily, Mark's voice cut through him like ice. "Don't say her name." Josh went quiet. Mark ended the call and stared at the wall. His jaw clenched. His chest burned. How deep did her betrayal really go? Later that night, he stood in the hallway outside Lily's room. He looked at her, asleep, peaceful, but the thought hung heavy. What if? He didn't finish it. He just stared at her face, trying to find something of his in it. And for the first time in this whole war, Mark felt fear. The clinic was discreet, clean, quiet. No questions. Mark swabbed his cheek with the same hand he once held a rifle in. The other swab, from Lily's toothbrush, sealed in a Ziploc bag, now handed over with clinical detachment. The nurse gave a tight smile. Results in 5 to 7 days. Mark nodded. Didn't speak. He drove home with the radio off, pulled into the driveway, sat there for a full 5 minutes staring at the house, at the life built behind those walls, at the lie that might be waiting on the other side. That night, he sat with Lily on the couch watching cartoons. She laughed at something dumb, leaned against him with the kind of trust that couldn't be faked. "Can I braid your hair again like we did before you left?" she asked, grinning. He smiled, forcing it through the ache in his chest. "Sure, but only if you do it better this time." She giggled, then kissed his cheek. And for a moment, the storm went still. But after she went to bed, Mark returned to his desk and opened a blank document. At the top, he typed, "If not mine, what then?" He didn't finish the thought. He just saved the file. And waited. Because the truth was coming. And this time, it might be the one thing he wasn't ready to face. Mark's lawyer, Denise Mallory, called him into her office without warning. "I need you to see something," she said the second he stepped inside. She slid a thick manila envelope across her desk. Inside were printed bank statements, notarized financial reports, and copies of Vanessa's withdrawals from the last 2 years. Mark flipped through the pages. "This isn't our joint account. No, Denise said. It's Lily's college fund. Mark froze. The numbers told a clear story. Thousands siphoned out in small increments, hidden under fake transactions labeled as tutoring, summer camp, school gear. But they weren't real. Where did it go? Mark asked, already knowing. Denise tapped the last page, hotel records, flights, a spa retreat in Miami. With Eric. She used your daughter's future to fund her affair, Denise said bluntly. This changes the game. Mark stared at the paper, his voice low. No, it ends it. Later that night, he stood by Lily's door as she slept. He clutched the file in his hand like a loaded weapon. And for the first time since he'd come home, the pain in his chest didn't feel like heartbreak. It felt like resolve. Mark called Josh. This time, there was no emotion in his voice. Just steel. Meet me. One time. Face to face. You owe me that much. Josh showed up at a coffee shop outside of town. Ball cap low, eyes sunken. Mark sat across from him and slid a folder across the table. I already tested her. Results are coming. If that's my daughter, nothing changes. If she's yours, I swear to God, Josh, I'll still fight for her. Josh stared. I didn't want this. You got it anyway. I was young. I didn't think she'd lie to me like that. She said you were done, Mark. That you'd already moved on. I believed her. Mark's hands curled into fists. I held your secrets when we were kids. I bailed you out of fights. I covered for you when you crashed Dad's car. And this is how you repay me. Josh's voice cracked. She used us both. Mark stood, leaning in close enough for his voice to cut like a blade. If Lily's not mine, you won't see her. Not once. Not ever. Josh blinked rapidly. Even if I'm her? Mark cut him off. She's my daughter. Not because of blood. Because I was the one who showed up. You're just a mistake in a memory I'm going to erase. Then he walked out. And Josh didn't follow. The courtroom was still. Lily sat quietly with the guardian ad litem in the front row. Vanessa sat beside her attorney, visibly shaken, trying to keep her posture straight. But the bags under her eyes told a different story. Mark wore his uniform. Not because he had to. Because he wanted them to see who he was. The judge reviewed the evidence. Then came the exhibits. Denise stood. Your Honor, Exhibit D, itemized withdrawals from a minor's trust account. The funds were used to finance extramarital activities by the respondent, Vanessa Reddick. Vanessa's lawyer objected, but it was overruled. Exhibit E, audio recordings of the respondent dismissing her responsibilities toward her daughter, including this statement, let him take her. Kids are resilient. Vanessa sank into her seat. Then Denise dropped the final blow. We request full legal and physical custody on grounds of neglect, emotional abandonment, and financial exploitation. The judge paused, brows furrowed. Does the respondent contest these findings? Vanessa's lips parted, but no words came out. Her lawyer whispered in her ear. She just shook her head. I have no further questions, Your Honor, Denise said. Mark looked over at Lily. She looked back at him and gave a soft, knowing smile, the kind that said she already knew who the safe parent was. The gavel came down. Full custody awarded to Mr. Reddick. Visitation rights suspended pending psychological review of the respondent. Vanessa's mouth fell open. And Mark? He didn't smile. He simply reached for his daughter's hand. Because in that moment, justice didn't need to be loud. It just needed to be final. Rain tapped softly on the windows as Mark pulled the old leather photo album from the back of the closet, the one Vanessa had made their first year married. Pages full of smiles that no longer meant anything. He laid it open on the kitchen table. Their wedding. Their first apartment. Lily's ultrasound. All of it. Poison now. Vanessa stood in the doorway watching him, arms crossed over her chest. What are you doing? Mark didn't look at her. He flipped a page and tore out a photo Lily's first day of kindergarten. He set it aside. The rest? He poured lighter fluid over the open pages. Vanessa stepped forward. Mark, stop this, he said quietly, was the last lie I was holding on to. He struck a match. The flame caught instantly, curling over their smiling faces, blackening what used to be sacred. You don't need to do this, she whispered. He turned, locking eyes with her. I already did. When I forgave you the first time and you lied again. That's when this marriage died. I'm just giving it the burial it deserves." She didn't speak. The fire in the drum outside the back porch danced as he dumped the ashes in. No screaming. No tears. Just finality. Because some things shouldn't be remembered. The DNA results arrived in a flat envelope. No ceremony. No phone call. Mark sat alone at his desk, Lily's backpack by the door where she'd tossed it after school. He stared at the envelope for a long time, then opened it. Probability of paternity, 99.98%. He exhaled, closed his eyes. Let the relief hit him like a wave. She was his. Not because science said so. Because he already knew. That night, he handed her the envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Just proof," he said gently, "of something I already knew." She opened it, confused. As she read, her eyes widened. "I don't understand," he smiled. "You're mine. Always were." Tears welled in her eyes. "Did someone say I wasn't?" "No. But some people don't understand what real family looks like. I just needed to make sure no one could ever take you from me." She launched herself into his arms. "I don't care what it says," she whispered. "You're my dad." He held her tighter than he had in years. Because now, there was nothing left to question. Only what came next. The town changed after that. Whispers filled grocery aisles. Eyes lingered longer when Vanessa walked into the bank, or the pharmacy, or church. Conversations stopped when she passed. No one yelled at her. No one needed to. The silence said enough. Eric's home stayed dark, his cruiser removed, his name scratched from the mailbox. His wife had filed for divorce the same day the department confirmed his suspension. Vanessa tried to keep going. She volunteered at a local event. Got turned down. She applied for a position at the school library. The PDA said no. Even the women who once laughed at her jokes now kept their distance, as if betrayal was contagious. Mark watched from a distance. Not with joy. With clarity. The justice wasn't in the flames or the courtroom. It was in the quiet. The way lies echo. The way truth roots deep. The way a town remembers. He no longer needed to destroy her. She had done it herself. And that was better than revenge. It was reputation rot. Permanent. Earned. And irreversible. Vanessa packed quietly. No one helped her. The silence in the house was so loud now, it echoed. Her footsteps, the creak of the stairs, even the soft click of her suitcase zippers, it all sounded like defeat. Mark stood by the doorway, arms crossed. "You could stay in town," he said flatly. "But I wouldn't recommend it." Vanessa didn't turn around. "They won't even look at me. Because they've seen you." Finally, she zipped the last compartment, then looked up. "I never wanted it to end like this. It ended the moment you made Lily feel alone." She opened her mouth, closed it again. "Where will you go?" he asked. "I don't know yet." He stepped aside. "Just make sure it's not here." She paused at the door. "Do you think she'll forgive me?" Mark met her eyes. "One day? Maybe. But you won't recognize her when she does." And just like that, she left. No hugs, no goodbyes. Just the sound of her car backing out of the driveway that used to be hers. Mark watched her tail lights disappear down the street. He didn't feel victory. He felt balance. Lily sat on the floor in her room, sorting colored pencils by shade. She was humming again. Mark stood in the doorway, just watching. She looked up. "You okay?" "I should be asking you that." She smiled. "I'm good. Miss Carter says I'm handling things really well." He stepped inside and sat on the floor beside her. "Miss Carter's smart." They colored in silence for a while. Lily picked a deep blue and started shading a sky. "Do you think Mom hates me?" Mark blinked. "No. She just forgot how to love right." Lily nodded slowly. "I don't want to forget how to love." "You won't. You've got too much of your mom's fire, and all of my stubborn." She grinned. "That's kind of a weird combo." "Maybe. But it's you. And that's perfect." Later that night, Mark passed by her room again and paused at the door. She was asleep with the light still on. On her nightstand sat a new drawing, her, Mark, and their dog from years back. No one else. Just the ones who stayed. It wasn't just healing. It was peace. Mark adjusted his collar before stepping onto the stage at the local veteran appreciation event. Rows of chairs were filled with former service members, families, and a few local journalists. A large banner hung behind him, Honor beyond service, he wasn't there to talk about medals or combat stories. He was there to talk about rebuilding. My name is Mark Reddick. I served 21 years in the Navy, but my real fight didn't start until I came home. The room went still. I came back to betrayal from the person I trusted most. But this isn't a story about revenge. It's about responsibility. For my daughter. For myself. He spoke without notes. Just heart. When we wear the uniform, we're trained to hold the line. But what happens when the line breaks at home? A pause. We hold it anyway. People leaned in. Some nodded. One man wiped his eyes. I lost a marriage. I lost my sense of safety. But I never lost who I was. And I never let my daughter lose herself either. A slow round of applause started, then built. And when it ended, a local reporter approached him backstage. That was raw. Honest. You ever think about sharing the full story? Mark shook his head. Maybe someday. For her. Not for me. Because he didn't need the world to know. Just his daughter. It happened quietly. Eric Daniels was spotted sitting alone outside the courthouse steps, suit wrinkled, tie crooked, hair longer than usual. He looked nothing like the badge-polished cop Mark once knew. Mark didn't say anything at first, just watched from across the street. Then he walked over. Eric looked up, here to gloat. Mark sat beside him on the cold concrete. You're not worth gloating over. Eric let out a bitter laugh. They took my badge. My wife. My pension's frozen. You earned all of it. Eric looked sideways. She lied to both of us. Mark didn't flinch. You knew she was married. She said you were a ghost. Said you didn't care. Mark turned toward him. And you believed her. Because it made what you wanted easier. Eric didn't respond. Mark stood up, pulled something from his jacket, a single photo. It was Eric and Lily from a birthday party 3 years ago. Laughing. Unbroken. You were family once. Lily thought the world of you. Eric stared at the photo, then back at Mark. Mark's voice dropped. You betrayed more than me. And that's what you'll carry. Not the charges, not the badge, her silence. He walked away, leaving Eric holding the picture. Not to forgive, but to remember what he ruined. Josh showed up uninvited. He stood at the edge of Mark's porch, holding a 6-pack of cheap beer and a face full of regret. Mark opened the door just far enough to be seen. Josh raised the bottles. Peace offering? Mark didn't reach for them. You're 4 years too late. Josh sighed. I had to try. You tried already, Mark said. You tried her. While I was 7,000 miles away, keeping you safe from people you'll never have the spine to stand against. Josh winced. I didn't know. I didn't. You knew enough, Mark cut in. You knew she was married. You knew I was deployed. And you still went back to her bed. Josh's voice dropped. I didn't come here to fight. No, Mark said coldly. You came here hoping I'd give you back some part of yourself I've already buried. Silence. Josh looked at the porch floor. You think I could ever talk to her? Mark stepped outside, shutting the door behind him. You don't get to speak her name. You don't get to step near this house. And you sure as hell don't get to play uncle to a kid who already lost enough. Josh nodded slowly, swallowing hard. Then he walked away. Mark didn't watch him go. Because some people don't deserve closure. They deserve consequences. Lily found the envelope taped to her door. Inside was a check, large, official, and clean. Her name was typed in bold. Lily Reddick, College Trust reinstated. She walked downstairs, holding it in both hands like it was breakable. Dad? Mark stood at the stove, flipping grilled cheese. She held up the check. You did this. He turned, smiled. Took a while. But I rebuilt the fund. Same amount. Same purpose. Her eyes widened. I thought it was gone. He nodded. It was. But not everything that breaks stays broken. She stared at it, quiet for a moment. You could have used this for anything. I did, he said. I used it for your future. She stepped forward and hugged him tightly. You didn't have to. I did, he whispered into her hair. Because one day, when you're standing on your own feet, making your own life, I want you to know this. You were always worth fighting for. Tears gathered in her eyes, but she didn't let go. She didn't need the money. She needed the message. Vanessa walked into the firehouse with a resume clutched in shaking hands. She needed a job. Any job. Something to rebuild her image. Pay rent. Get her life back. The receptionist took her resume and skimmed it without expression. You worked in admin? Yes. HR, mostly. Scheduling, file management. You're Vanessa Reddick? She nodded, hesitantly. The woman's lips tightened. You'll hear from us. But she wouldn't. The firehouse was close-knit. Word traveled fast. And betrayal? It didn't fade, especially not when it involved a decorated veteran and his daughter. Later that evening, Vanessa found a letter in her mailbox. No name. No return address. We don't want liars here. We don't want homewreckers. We don't want you. She read it 3 times before folding it in half and placing it in a drawer. The rejection didn't need HR language. It needed clarity. And now she had it. The town didn't throw stones. It didn't gossip loudly. It did something worse. It remembered. Mark noticed it in the smallest things. The way people greeted Lily with extra warmth. The way neighbors left a pie or a note without saying a word. The way veterans at the VFW shook his hand a little tighter now. Vanessa, when she passed through the market, got no insults. Just silence. And when Eric was spotted at the gas station for the first time since his arrest, no one said a word. They just didn't look at him. They looked through him. This was a place that valued trust, integrity, loyalty. Vanessa had walked into a fire. Eric had poured the gasoline. And Mark? He stood on the other side, scarred but respected, because this town didn't just remember who broke it. It remembered who rebuilt what was left. Mark stood at the edge of the cliffs just after sunrise, the salt-heavy wind brushing against his jacket. The tide was low, revealing jagged rocks and sea foam below. This was where he used to come before deployments, to think, to pray, to say goodbye. Now he came for something different. Behind him, a crew finished securing a bench into the soil. It was simple, polished wood, matte black plaque mounted on the backrest. He walked up slowly, ran his hand along the surface. The inscription read, "Honor isn't something you claim. It's something you prove." Mr. He didn't build it for himself. He built it for the people who sat down feeling broken, hoping they'd leave a little straighter, a little more grounded. Lily appeared beside him, holding 2 hot drinks. "You did it," she said, handing him one. He nodded. Figured it's time to leave something good behind. They sat side by side, the ocean roaring beneath them. "You miss her?" Lily asked softly. He paused. "I miss the version of her I thought was real." Lily nodded. "Sometimes I dream about the old days. But then I remember. You're the one who stayed." Mark glanced at her. She smiled, older than her age, stronger than most adults he knew. He wrapped an arm around her shoulder. "I don't care how broken it got," he said. "I got you out of it. And that's the win." The ocean kept crashing below. But up here, it was quiet. The auditorium buzzed with energy. Parents clapped. Flashbulbs flickered. Names were called, diplomas handed out, hands shaken. But for Mark, it all narrowed to one moment. Lily Reddick, valedictorian. Applause exploded. Mark stood, eyes wet, trying to keep still as she walked to the podium in her royal blue gown. She adjusted the mic. "My name is Lily, and I wasn't supposed to be here today." The crowd quieted. She continued, voice clear, strong, honest. "A few years ago, my world flipped upside down. I lost trust in everything I thought was real. Except one thing, my father." Mark froze. His throat closed. He never asked for credit. He never told me how hard it was. He just showed up. Again, and again, and again. She looked right at him. "And everything I am is because of who he was when things fell apart." Silence. Then thunderous applause. Mark didn't sit back down. He couldn't. He just watched her walk off that stage with the kind of pride that no award could ever touch. Because he didn't just raise a survivor. He raised a warrior. Vanessa stared at the blank page for hours. Her pen hovered, trembled, scratched a line, then stopped. She was sitting on a small twin bed in a rented one-room apartment just outside of town, the kind of place that hummed with fridge noise and loneliness. It had taken months to admit it. The silence was hers now. She'd earned it. The page eventually filled. Paragraph after paragraph of real apologies. Not excuses. Not blame. Just raw honesty. "I lied. I ruined more than our marriage. I ruined the version of myself I thought I could still be. I see Lily's face when I close my eyes, not in pain, but in peace, and I know that's because of you. You don't owe me anything, but I owed you this. She folded it neatly, placed it in an envelope, addressed it with shaking hands. But as she stood by the mailbox, the wind picked up. Distant traffic groaned behind her, and something in her chest pulled tight. She turned around, walked back inside, and set the letter on her nightstand. She would never send it, because forgiveness wasn't owed. And Mark? He didn't need her closure. She did. Mark sat at a round table under soft lights, sipping coffee, nodding along to a fellow veteran's story about rebuilding after loss. The event was quiet, respectful. No suits, just stories. Someone asked him, "Would you ever do it again? Love like that?" He paused, swirling the coffee in his hand. "Love's not the problem," he said. "Blind trust is." The man nodded. "You still seem grounded. Most guys would be out for blood after what you went through." Mark gave a quiet smile. That was the old me, the man who thought vengeance made things right. And now I know better, he said. Now I just protect what matters, and let the rest burn if it needs to. He wasn't cold anymore, just calculated and calm. After the meeting, a young woman approached him, new to the group, nervous. "Mr. Reddick, your story, it helped. I'm not in the military, but I'm recovering from something." He gave a soft nod. "You don't need war to know what survival feels like." She smiled. "Thank you." Mark watched her walk away, stronger already. He didn't need a crowd, just impact. The moving truck rumbled into the driveway next door just after noon on a Saturday. Mark was trimming the hedges when he saw them, a woman in her late 30s and a boy around 10. She was handling the boxes herself. No husband in sight. Lily watched from the porch, squinting against the sun. New people. Looks like it. Mark walked over slowly, hands still gloved from the garden. "Need a hand?" he asked. The woman turned, slightly startled. "I'm good, thanks. Just trying to get a fresh start." He nodded. "Fresh starts are welcome around here." The boy peeked from behind the open truck, shy. Mark smiled. "I've got a basketball hoop and a freezer full of popsicles." The kid's eyes lit up. The woman extended a hand. "I'm Sarah. That's Mason." "Mark," he said, shaking her hand. "That's Lily, my daughter." Sarah smiled softly. "You two seem close." "We are," he said, glancing at Lily. "Took a lot to get here." She nodded, understanding more than she said. Sometimes you don't need to know someone's past to recognize they've lived one. They unloaded in silence for a few minutes. Comfortable. Easy. A new chapter didn't need fanfare. It just needed to feel like possibility. The camera turned on with a soft click. Mark sat in his workshop, lit only by a desk lamp. No dramatic lighting. No edits. Just him, in a plain black shirt, hands folded, face calm. He stared into the lens for a long moment before speaking. This isn't a story about a broken marriage, or revenge, or even betrayal. A pause. It's a story about what happens when you come home to a battlefield that doesn't wear a uniform, when the wounds are invisible, when the enemy isn't out there, but sleeping beside you. He glanced down, gathering himself. "My name is Mark Reddick. I served 21 years in the Navy, but the hardest war I ever fought was to protect my daughter from the lies that nearly buried her." Images played behind him on screen. A blurred shot of Lily as a kid, her drawing, a quiet photo of the ocean bench. "I didn't film this to make anyone a villain. Life already handled that. I filmed it because too many of us, veterans, parents, survivors, think silence is strength. It's not." His voice cracked, just once. "Strength is showing up, even when everything inside you wants to disappear." He looked straight into the camera now. If you're going through hell, walk. If you've been betrayed, protect what's worth saving. And if no one's ever told you this before, you're not crazy for needing the truth. You're human. Then he leaned forward and added something softer, more personal. "Lily, if you ever watch this when you're older, know that you were always my compass. And no lie was ever stronger than my promise to you." He exhaled slowly, then reached forward and ended the recording. That video, it would be uploaded anonymously, just one more voice in the digital void. But it wouldn't vanish. It would spread like wildfire among vets, single dads, women escaping emotional trauma, and anyone who'd ever whispered, "No one believes me." And it would do what Mark always did: stand, protect, endure. The ocean roared gently beneath them. Mark and Lily sat on the same bench he'd built months ago, the one with the inscription that meant everything. Honor isn't something you claim. It's something you prove. Lily sipped her hot chocolate. Her hair was longer now, her laugh louder. But some quiet had stayed in her, the kind that comes from growing up too soon. She looked at him. "Do you ever regret how it ended?" Mark didn't answer right away. The question didn't surprise him. It had just taken time to arrive. "I regret not seeing it sooner," he said finally. "I regret how much it cost you." "But do you regret what you did about it?" she asked softly. He shook his head, steady. "No, because it gave me back everything they tried to take." Lily leaned into his side. "You never broke." He smiled faintly. "I broke. I just didn't stop." They watched the horizon together, silence folding around them like a blanket. And in that stillness, it was clear Vanessa was gone. Eric? Forgotten. Josh? Out of sight, out of story. The town? Healed. The legacy? Intact. What remained wasn't rage or grief. It was resolve. And it was enough. A final word to you, the viewer. Hey, if you've made it to the end of this wild, raw, emotional ride, thank you. Truly. Now it's your turn to speak. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. Did this story hit you somewhere deep? Share your favorite moment below. Like if it gripped you. Subscribe if you're ready for the next thriller. And hey, maybe send it to someone who needs to know they're not alone. Because this wasn't just Mark's story. It was for anyone who's ever been burned and chose not to turn to ash. See you in the next epic tale of betrayal, fire, and justice. Until then, take care of your heart. And don't ignore the silence. Midnight Affairs Tales, signing off.